Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RVing in New England. So that must mean it's showtime, John.
Showtime, everybody. My name is John DePietro. The older guy is Bob Zagami, and
The good-looking guy is Bob Zagami.
we're excited to be here tonight because
we have a unique guest.
We've got the heavyweights with us tonight.
We get the big dog on tonight. Bob Martin, President and CEO of Thor Industries, will join us in a couple of minutes.
But first,
a word from our sponsor. We are
which is
Lee's Family Trailer Sales and Service in Windham, Maine. A big Thor dealer. A lot of those units on the lot up there are Thor units. He's New England's largest, fastest growing, actually, the last 3 years. He bought the business 3 years ago, and he's almost quadrupled the size of the dealership in just that short amount of time.
But more important, Dan is a nice guy.
And so is Bob Martin. That's
right,
not too Bob Martin isn't, but we'll leave that up to our audience.
We should bring Bob Martin up.
I'm going to bring Bob Martin up, but I just want to tell you, John, I won the bet.
Kessler is here.
Kessler is in the house, and there's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
The other way.
Bob, do you have your executive vice president with you?
She's in the other room.
Oh, because Bob Zagami has his two executive vice presidents with him.
They're here. They're ready to go. But I do want to note that Mr. Kessler was here at, it says 10:02.
No, 19:02. 7:02.
That is probably the earliest that Kessler has ever joined us, Bob. So it must be you. So we'll introduce you to a few in a minute. But
the happy hour ended early tonight in Michigan, so he's here.
So there may actually be some people out there, Bob, who don't know who you are. We live in this little bubble called the RV industry. So take a few minutes and introduce yourself and tell them how you got into this business.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me. My name is Bob Martin, and I've been in the industry since about 1993, and I'm a native to Elkhart, Indiana, born and raised in 1969, and I lived in Elkhart till I was about age 9, and then I moved to the metropolis of Bristol, Indiana.
With 10 miles?
Just out in between Elkhart and Middlebury.
10 miles away?
5. I mean, yeah. I haven't moved much in my lifetime. I've moved several times, but just not in a far radius. But right now I live probably 2 miles from Jaco, and a lot of the other guys that are in the industry are very close to where I live, right in the middle of the country, and it's a beautiful area. So I grew up in Elkhart, moved to Bristol. I went to Elkhart High School. Luckily, those of you that have met me, I'm tall, and I was able to get a scholarship to Purdue, and I didn't play a lot, but I had a free education, so I'm always indebted to them for that. And
so, Bob, it's important to say that you were a Boilermaker before you were an RV maker.
Yes. Long before. I come from a lineage of a lot of Boilermakers, even though we live in the land of the Golden Domers. My sisters all went to Purdue. Many of my brother-in-laws. My daughter graduated from there last year. So we bleed black and gold. So it's a very good thing. But then when I graduated from Purdue, I came home, and I really never had the intention of getting in the industry. My parents weren't from the industry. My dad worked for the railroad. My mom worked for the CTS Corporation. So no real affiliation. It was kind of a fluke interview at Coachman RV when it was, Coachman before Forest River. And I met, some people that were pretty influential in my life. On that first day of interviews, I interviewed with Jim Fromm, Marshall Berger, but then really the person I went to work for was Ron Fennick. But I interviewed with Ron, Don Clark, Mike Turlip, people that I'm still associated with now. Several started Keystone, very successful people. But that's really where it started. I was one of those Coachman trainees that drove the tour bus and worked all the shows, and then many of my shows, my territory as a sales advisor at the time, I covered two sales reps, Troy Schultz and Chuck Green, and it was the Northeast. So I think my first show, I'll go back. My first show was the Rochester Dome show for Myers, but then shortly after that, my first big road trip was in a Santera 310 diesel, and we drove it all the way up through New Hampshire, Connecticut, and ended up dropping it off at Alpenhaus in Amsterdam. And so it was my first time driving a motorhome.
What the heck?
And just really learning to travel. And after that, I was a salesman at Keystone a coachman for 3 years down in the Southwest in Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, New Mexico. And then, so about 5 years at Coachman, Bill Fennick had already gone to start Keystone, and Ron Fennick had left about 6 months earlier. And I was one of the first Montana Cougar sales guys. So I followed Ron over there, and I really was at Keystone for several years before the Thor acquisition. And it's what I tell people when we buy the company. I know what it's like to be purchased by a Thor company because I went through it. But my time at Keystone was incredible in sales, product development, product management. I was chief operating officer for a number of years during the recession, which you learned a lot.
Yep.
Eventually, I ended up being president of Keystone for a couple of years before I came to corporate, going on close to 7 years now. And so kind of that 25-year history rolled up in just a few minutes. But for me, it's, I think I always product sales. I know a lot of dealers just because I've traveled the nation getting to know the dealers. And it served me well. So it's an industry I enjoy.
So you're not the son or son-in-law or cousin of any of the people above you that you got your jobs with?
No, Peter and I, we look alike. That's about it. And but I have a great relationship with Peter Orthwein. He lives in Connecticut, but he's due to COVID, he hasn't been out much, but he loves to come to Elkhart when we to go visit the plants and things such as that. But I have a great relationship with him and have his full support. And he's our chairman emeritus right now. I work for a board, but it was Wade and Peter that started the company in 1980. And for those that don't know, Thor, the name, it's not after a Greek god. It's after the TH of Thompson and the OR of Orthwein. So that's how the company got its name. And no, I never really knew Peter until I met him at Keystone a few times. And then when he had some changes, and after the death of Wade is when he approached me, and he just thought it was very important to fill the role from within the company rather than going outside can change things. And so for me, Peter's just been wonderful support. I enjoy and I learn so much every day from him. He's the master of the deal and acquisitions, and for me, it's just really been a great learning experience. On this journey that I've had over the last several years. But no, I've tried to get Peter to adopt me, but he won't do it.
Okay, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to run through the roster to see who's out here. But before I do that, for all of our fans that are out there tonight, there's two little tidbits that Bob was telling us about earlier today when we did our testing. He is the man that I won't say invented, but you're the man responsible for the Cougar at Keystone, correct?
I was the first sales manager. Ron created it definitely, and I came on and it was already created as a trailer. But then I was the first product manager that kind of came in, and I think my title was national sales manager. But I do look at Cougar. Cougar was my baby. I came in to sell Montana, but Cougar's really the one that I've enjoyed watching grow throughout many years.
And the other more mature, one of the first shows that Bob worked wasn't the Nerve to Show at that time, but the Boston RV Group at the Bayside the Bayside Convention Center, that is no longer there. It is now dormitories for UMass. But let's see. We got Jerry Plant on from Cape Cod. Jerry's with Majors RV Service Center. Tremendous service center down there. Rodney Layberger from Bradford RV. He's down in Myrtle Beach on vacation. Ronnie, you're always on. You must make a ton of money because you are always on vacation.
But his boss is on the watching to make sure he's watching.
Well, Brad Moore said he was going to be on just to check on Ronnie. Say hello. Walter Swenson, our resident engineer, is sitting on his duff in Florida. John calls it a vacation, so we'll call it vacation. We got Kessler. Eric Teller is from
in the Villages. I didn't know that.
Flat Happy, New York. Okay. Happy New Year. Andy Parr, the Gadget Girl. Hello, Andy. Estelle Drew, good evening. She's up in New Hampshire. Dante's up in Windham, Maine. And Dante, who's our sponsor? I want to see if you were paying attention, Dante. Who's our sponsor? I'll give you a hint. He's only 5 miles from your home. Audrey Foley Egan, always a regular. Hi, guys. This should be interesting. Oh, wait. Now, Audrey, are you saying that John and I are not interesting, that we had to bring on the big gun from Thor before we get excitement from you? Michelle Fontaine's on from Rolling on TV with Jose Moniz. Good evening, Bob and John. Say, getting Emma back with 2 new axles tomorrow. All right, so her unit's been in for repair. And it's not a Thor unit, I can tell you that. Mark Polk, good evening. Hi, Mark from, Mark, Bob from Mark and Don from RV Education 101?
In North Carolina.
And all the consumer stuff. Stressless Camping, Tony Barlow. Greetings from the other side of the country.
Tony's out in California.
He is in California. Gail Hogan, good evening and Happy New Year. Scott Nichols, thanks for coming back, Scott. Good evening. Jose Moniz from Mattapoisett, Massachusetts. Producer of Rolling on TV. Kathy Wheeler is on. Hello and good evening. Brad Moore. Hey, Jose from Lakewood. There goes Brad. He's doing his side conversations. He doesn't say hello to us. He says hello to...
He says hi to Jose.
Oh, Jose.
Brad, do that on your own time. This is Bob Martin time.
Don Barone from Bass Fishing. Do you fish for bass, Bob?
Just in my little pond, which I get more bluegill than bass.
Don is the most famous writer in the bass fishing community nationwide. He's written for ESPN and he's doing some bass fishing stuff. But he has like 300 followers, and sometimes his blogs are read by 1 million people.
300 followers. He's got a lot more than that.
Huh?
He's got a lot more than 300.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. I'll catch up after Brad on the other ones. John, ask Bob a question.
Bob, I think it's important to point out that, let's go from the first acquisition to the last acquisition. Okay, Airstream was 40 years ago. Okay, and Tiffin was 40 days ago. Okay, but I think it's important to point out in your own career that you weren't the one that acquired Keystone, but you were an acquiree. So you went from being acquired to now acquiring. And besides, when you gave your resume, your 25 years in 25 seconds, you've done pretty much everything. But I think the important thing to point out, and Bob will get into the stuff about earnings before interest and taxes and all that other stuff, which I know nothing about, is that you also camp. And I think that's the most important thing, because Bob Tiffin's the only other guy that I know at the top of the corporate ladder that camps.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I started just as many did. It was Aram Koltuki, and my president of Keystone. He and I were sales guys or my president of KZ. We were sales guys at Keystone, and we bought a used 86 Travelcraft motorhome just to see if we would use. And we both use it quite a bit. And now Aram, he owns one of his KZ trailers, but my family, they just gravitate to motorhomes. So we've had Chateau Class Cs, Astoria diesels, Tuscany diesels. We've gone back to now we're back at a Thor Delano Class C, and our big trip during the COVID shutdown was through Michigan. We did the M22 drive, Sleeping Bear Dunes, Traverse City, different state parks. Did a Harvest Host, And then we drove all the way up to the furthest point of the UP in this little Mercedes Class C, and it was great. I mean, for getting into tight spots, this is just, I think we're all seeing that part of the market, the C's and B's really kind of explode.
Going crazy.
And it's just easy to drive. I mean, when my wife got behind the wheel, she would never drive one of our buses. She was just scared of it, but she got behind us, and in 20 minutes, she said, I can do this. It's easy. And so, no, I know how to, hook it up. I know how to dump the tanks. I've had a real world Robin Williams experience where I didn't share this with you guys earlier, but it was my first new motorhome, was a Damon Daybreak.
Yep.
And we're coming from a Purdue football game, and we had a big tailgate with the family, and I was late trying to get to the airport to go to the Harrisburg show. And I hooked up I hooked up my sewer hose, and I didn't look close enough, and it wasn't on real tight, and I pulled the black gate valve, and everything came right at me.
Yep.
And it just kept coming. So I had to go shut the gate valve, get a different hose that I knew was under the bed, and finish, hose everything down. Oh yeah, it was quite an experience, but that is 100% real. It was gross. But I mean, that's you. Now I've never had another experience, because I always look to make sure, and I've had it where the plastic piece, the clamp was cracked, and so I almost had it happen to me twice. And so now, I double check, and you make sure, and you're very conscious of it. And so, but I mean, we enjoy it. I mean, our kids grew up in car seats and in motorhomes and camping, all over, really over the Midwest. We weren't able to go out west.
And you got to come out to New England.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. That's it. They want to go out to Maine, and
I'm in Maine all summer. Come on up.
And our sponsor tonight, Lee's family. I mean, it would be a business trip for you, because you were going out there to check on inventory.
Right.
Well, I one of my first shows, other than Boston, but the Freiburg Fair.
Way up there.
With Lee himself taught me how to eat lobster. Yep. And I'm from Midwest, young guy. I've had it, but I didn't know exactly how to eat the whole lobster. But Lee, in his motorhome, taught me how to eat it. And I camped in one of Sherry's trailers at the fair. So I've been out there.
You enjoy meeting Dan Craffey, who bought him 3 years ago.
Yep.
Quadrupled them, and he's just a down-to-earth guy, and just an amazing dealer for us. And actually, we announced, I think, earlier today that Dan has just signed up for sponsoring our show for the next 6 months. It's the longest contract that we've had, and we really appreciate that. On the guest side, Jim Roy is on. Jim Roy is, you would like Jim Roy, Bob Martin, because Jim Roy, and you may not have seen the show a couple of weeks ago, he is the founder of Silver Moose Restorations in Maine, Monmouth, Maine. He restores old Airstreams. I'll send you a link after the show to it. In fact, I sent it to Wheeler and Justin. But I'll send you a link. But Jim does some amazing work. I just was up there a couple of weeks ago. I'm working on a story on him for RV Pro. But what amazing work he does. And he won't do anything over 1975. So he's got a couple of classics in there right now. Dawn says hello from North Carolina. She must be in a different room than Mark, because Mark already said hello. Jim Mack, King of the Road. The History of Thor is a great read. There you go. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Where are you reading that?
Jim, nice to have you on. Jerry Plant. I saw Bob's interview with Bob Tiffin. I thought it was very well done. Hopefully it will calm the Tiffin cult down. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Bob? Because you've got a different philosophy. Everybody thinks that when people buy companies that they must be Wall Street lawyers or graduates of Yale and Harvard MBA programs, and the only thing they look at is the balance sheets. But I don't want to steal your thunder, but the fact of the matter is, when you make acquisitions, they're more for the relationship. So explain how important that is to Thor, and why it's different at Thor versus many roll-ups that do devastate the companies that they buy, or make them go to coordinated HP or coordinated purchasing. Explain your philosophy on that, because I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just for us, it's the model that Wade and Peter set up. It's highly decentralized. It's our companies, many they compete, and we think that competition actually creates more innovation and creation. We try to make sure that they're doing it the right way, but competing in product and new features, and really the way they run their company. That's where Airstream being the first, there's nothing quite like Airstream. There's no company really run like that exactly. It's almost more of an automotive model. So it's been fun for me to learn from from a Bob Wheeler, from a Justin Humphreys, Molly, their marketing manager. I've learned so much from her in my position now. So every time we buy a company, we learn quite a bit. And then, they learn from us as well. And so what you're talking about is the first thing we look at is a cultural fit before we even talk about numbers. That doesn't even come up. And everybody just has a question of, how it's going to work and what we're going to do. And, there are things during the Jayco deal, sitting down with Daryl and Wilbur in my barn. They just had a list of things they thought would have to change. And when I got to about number 10 of me saying no, and one being the Jayco trip, and I just laughed and I said, do you guys really think you want me to be the guy that took away the Jayco trip? And so when I can, I go on the trip. And so I've been on a couple of them and their dealer meetings. And so it was a similar thing with Bob Tiffin. It was just a good conversation about how the company works. And Bob has this reputation for taking care of the customer that is second to none. And we knew that, obviously going in, we share a lot of their top dealers. I know very well, and to change that. And the first thing for me was I wanted to make sure Bob wanted to be involved in the business, and to help me learn, to help transfer that wealth of knowledge to the next line of managers within the company. And when it was very clear that he really had no intentions of slowing down, he thought it was time to do something, but he wanted to continue to work. And it's meeting even his wife, Judy. She offered to pay me to keep Bob working. And
my wife would do that.
So would mine probably, but no. Knowing that Bob, when customers come in, he goes over and above, and going down, seeing their service shop, seeing their commitment to service, and taking care of these customers for life. I think we can all learn a lot from that, and that was one of their critical things. That's what Bob does. He's on the phone every day. And I think, that's part of the reason we did the video was really supposed to be just for employees. And that was unrehearsed. I flew on Sunday night. Bob and I met and talked quickly. And then they asked us a couple questions and we just kind of rambled, but it was all unrehearsed, natural. And that's what our intention is. And I really liked it. Bob looked at the camera and he said, I'm not going anywhere. And he said, I'm going to continue. You call my phone, I'm going to pick up the phone, and I'm going to be here to take care of you. He wants to work shows. We all want to get through the new COVID normal and get back to where we can have shows. But that's the intent. And for us, we just see the magic in that name. And there are other things we can help them do. And they've got a great team that they look forward to, coming up. And it was interesting seeing them just kind of light up. The open house has been our big event, and they've come up, but not being part of our display, they really kind of wanted to. They thought that'd be fun and interesting. And then just everything that they do, it's all a little bit different than our companies in Indiana. And so I think there are things that we can learn from them. A lot of vertical integration, a lot of automation.
Okay.
It's
so Bob Martin, my question to you is as follows. And I know the shareholders will be very interested in finding out the answer, because I'm going to ask you right here in the general public. You had said earlier You don't get involved with negotiations. You let the lawyers and the accountants do that, right?
For the numbers.
You kind of leave.
I'm involved. Believe me, okay, I know.
Somewhat.
But I when it,
but
the nitty gritty.
You kind of leave the company. You kind of have a laissez-faire attitude with the individual companies. Outside of introduce Keith Urban at open houses, what do you do all day? I almost said Brad Paisley.
that was a highlight. That was a pretty good 50th birthday week. But no, listen, we meet with our companies on a regular basis.
Okay.
We obviously, one of our major acquisitions a couple of years ago was Erwin-Heimer Group. So right now I'm not able to go to Europe, but we did. We restructured the companies a little bit. Just the management. So I have Chris Herman and Matt Zimmerman that are group GMs for the U.S. Troy James helps me with international, but international, and now Tiffin to me just it's a special company with a history that I think it's an opportunity. So that's going to report directly to me as well. So it'll be the Bob, Van, Lee, Tim, just all of us working together. But then Heimer, that when I was traveling, and I'm glad that we were able to do it because before COVID, I was probably in Europe 12 to 15 times a year, and it's a lot of travel. But you have to get to know the people and learn the team. Get to know dealers. I feel I got to know quite a few, and the business is very similar. It's more motorized and smaller units, but the business is the same, and that's why we went international. We just saw more growth opportunities as the European market is more fragmented. There are a few big manufacturers, but there are a lot of small companies that are what we call kind of bolt-on that we think we can help grow, for many, many years to come in Europe. And so for me, it keeps me busy. It's a time schedule that they're 6 hours ahead of us. So you wake up to a slew of emails and phone calls and voicemails, and then you have we have West Coast operations, we have West Coast dealers. So even if I have a day that starts off with nothing on the calendar, next thing I know, it's 6, 7 o'clock, and I don't know where the day went. I've been on the phone usually most of the day. And it's the RV industry, and in 2020, you can't plan. I mean, we've been reacting daily.
The big, go ahead, Bob.
Heimer's a great company, and I had done some consulting with him several years ago, and I was delighted when you picked them up. I think one of the big differences, and you hit on it, here in the States, we're 80% towable and 20% motorized. In Europe, they're 80% motorized, 20% towables. And it's an interesting mix as to what they have for that. But you've also, since you made that acquisition, announced that you're going to have Heimer USA. Where does that stand? Because you had those products at Open House in 2019. The dealers absolutely loved them. We had a picture of Mike Wendland shooting a movie with Martin there. And where does that production start, and when does it get integrated into the United States? And then we're going to jump and take a couple of questions from the audience.
Yeah, no, I mean the Heimer USA, it's a huge goal for us, and then we had the plant in Bristol ready. We had nearly 50 German employees that were enthusiastically wanting to move to Northern Indiana. We had one of the main production managers that gave us a multi-year commitment to come to the U.S., and they were all due to come in the spring and through June, and then COVID hit. And so without traveling, it's hard to set up a plant via Zoom. It's hard to build a culture and build a product via Zoom. So we made the determination at the time, until we know with certainty what we can do. We ended up Thor Motor Coach took over the plant in Bristol, and it's building Class B for Thor Motor Coach right now, the Sequence and the Tolaro. And some of those they have some of the features from Europe and a little bit of the look, but our goal was to really, build exactly like a European unit to the T, and that's why we needed the people to come do it. So I wish I could put a date down. We've pretty much we've had to redeploy people in Germany in other positions, so they're not just waiting. But Martin Brandt has told me that whether when the travel ban comes off, if people want to come back and work in our companies and help with automation, with lean, we could start there. Or if it's Heimer USA gets totally rebooted, but it's really it's when we can, and and then there are other factors too. I mean, just with the industry this year, it would have been a tough time to even really start it with the tight labor market and some shortages and there are special parts.
Yeah.
So it would have been tricky, but it's still definitely one of my goals that we want to get done because we think it'll be good for the industry, and we're excited to bring the product.
Okay, and that's a great update. Thank you. We're going to take a little break here, and not long, but I'm going to push this up and talk a little bit about our sponsor this week is Lee's Family Trailer Sales, and this week and for the next 6 months, they have signed up to sponsor RVing in New England. Dan Craffey and his team up there in Windham, Maine. So he's got good lobsters, Bob. Next time you come up with me, I'm sure Dan will be glad to host you and take you out. He's recently, within the last year, picked up the Thor motor coach line. He's got, I don't know, a couple dozen on the lot. He's got about 100 on order, and he just loves what he's doing. He just built a brand new service bay, just expanded the dealer lot by another 7 acres on the lot itself, and tremendous service team, tremendous sales team. We love working with him. Big Thor fan, so people will be hearing a lot about that. Does a great job on Cougar in Montana, and I haven't checked to see if Kevin's on here yet.
Kevin is.
He is on. Okay, We'll get down. So Kevin likes that. He likes going up to see Dan. But if you haven't been up there, folks, take a ride up to Windham, Maine, or check them out at leesfamilytrailer.com, Dan Craffey and group at Lee's Family Trailer Sales. Okay, we should catch up on it. Jesse,
you need to tell people that Lee's Family Trailer Sales, nobody knows where Windham, Maine is. It's just a short hop, skip, and a jump from Portland.
That's
right.
15 minutes out of northwest of Portland. Not exactly. And when you see the numbers that the number of sales that they make out of Windham, Maine, people are amazed. Kevin will tell you. He can tell you a lot of stories. But
and when they have customer open houses, they have great food. Right, Bob?
That's important. Yes.
You set the tone at open house with those lobsters, right? We don't have to tell Bob Martin about lobsters. Bob, when we go to open house and go into that brand new pavilion that they have now, and you see those lobsters. I took pictures of those lobsters a couple of years ago and sent them to my kids, and they were very upset that I couldn't put them back in the plane.
We have one of our presidents, Mr. Koltukian, is very particular about his lobster. And he grew up in the Northeast, and they have to be Maine lobster.
And they're not that southern lobsters. I mean, we should say you're in Florida now. You're not going to go out and order lobster, right?
No.
Not unless it says on the menu, imported from Maine.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So we got Jesse Brissett on from Gander RV in West Hatfield. Jesse's a big cougar. He was with Hemlock Hill, and now he's with Gander RV. He's a big cougar in Montana salesman. And French, hello from a Tiffin Breeze owner in New Hampshire. Well, welcome, Ann.
Welcome.
And I'm sure Bob welcomes you to the family too, right?
Yeah, welcome. I can't wait to meet more.
Yeah, there she is, Ann French. All right. Brad Moore says, Pete's family owned the New England Patriots. I forgot about that. And it's terrible that I did, because I am old enough to remember the start of the New England Patriots, the absolute beginning in 1960. In 61, they played the first game. Jerry Plant says, I saw Bob. Oh, we already read that. The interview with Bob Tipp and Jim Mack. We got Tim's RV in Irving. Chubby Trout Elkhart is one of the best in Elkhart. He's right. Right,
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah, very good.
If you want to talk to somebody in the RV industry, no matter who it is, just go to Chubby Trout and you'll listen to 2 or 3 conversations, and they'll be RV people.
You can go lunch or dinner, yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. Andy Parr, Bob, you should be proud of the empire you created. The empire? Well, all right, an empire you created. But speaking as a purchaser of a new Airstream motorhome, no, I'm not going to say that. We're not going to say anything negative tonight. No, I'm not going to do that. Dante is on. Okay, Frank Cates. Hey, from Lynn, Mass, with my silver Conestoga. Well, Frank bought a new Airstream this year. Jason, good evening, everyone. May you all be blessed with a happy new year. Thank you, Jason. Jason is the former Rhode Island State Director for Good Sam, and we work closely with the state chapters quite a bit. Mark?
Fonts.
Okay, I'll say it to all, and no one is hurt. Not sure what that means. Maybe enlighten me on that. Walter Swenson.
I forgot Rick from LaBelle, Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rick. That's right. And he did say, I lost it. Can you read it, John?
Yeah, Walter. Interested in your thoughts on industry consolidation. While I understand the business reasons for consolidation, it historically has not benefited the customer in most industries. From your perspective, can you provide your view on industry consolidation and how it might help the consumer? I think we went into that. I mean, you're not a okay, let's make everything the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I mean, many industries consolidate, and they do. They'll buy a company and they'll start shutting plants down. They'll consolidate products to increase efficiencies, buying power, just many different reasons that other industries will do that. And for us, the 3 main consolidators, us, Forest River, Winnebago, they all operate with a more decentralized, setup as a company. And for us, to put it in perspective, we've got over 22,000 employees. There are less than 80 in corporate, and it's mostly accounting. It's HR professionals, legal professionals, our IT. But we don't even have all of our companies. We don't make them all go to one centralized computer system. People think that's just one of the things that we do, and it all kind of melds into one. It's all very different. I mean, they make their own choices, and most of them are on an Exapta system, but others, they may choose something different, which Airstream's on a different system. But we don't, come in and make them, change their, the structure of the company. We like to keep owners around as long as we can. And, I still have contact with, people from the original owners of Keystone, Crossroads, Cole Davis. I mean, it goes all the way back to where we still have, good connections with the people that started the companies. And our goal is to let them, have their essence, and many times compete, with other products that sometimes are within their own house. And I think as you have a larger company come in, and you can really help. I mean, every company that we've bought, we've learned a little bit more. So you look at all the names that are on the screen there. There are a lot of names, but every one I've learned, the companies have learned. And we've got a great group of presidents that going through COVID, that was not an easy task to figure out how to come back to production. And so we honestly learned first from our group in Europe, because they went through it first. So we learned their protocols and what it would take to actually be able to build RVs in a COVID environment. And so just working as a team really, helped all of our companies get through that. And many, as I've gone throughout, factories this summer and talked to different management teams, they appreciated having, some of the Thor core group lead this charge as we got back into production, because it was no small lift. It was huge, and our group did a nice job. Also, you look at things as you go further down the road. I mean, technology. We're all hearing the words, electric vehicle. As you partner with, a company that has a group, we have so many different partnerships out there on the auto side, and also just private customers that have ideas for us on the EV side and autonomous. So becoming part of that, we try to really help them. And I structure it this way, that Thor Corporate is a resource. And we have meetings quarterly with our companies, and we let them look, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and what would they like to do? And I saw it at Keystone. When Keystone was purchased by Thor, they were about a $400 to $500 million company. After Thor came in, we had a plan as a team, and we started building plants. And we built some really special products, and the company grew. And so for me, being fearful of the company going backwards or just drastically changing, I didn't see it. And it's something where we didn't see Wade and Peter much. I'm probably more involved than they were, but in part I came from the RV industry. I came from the sales side, the product development side. So I probably know enough to be dangerous, but this is where we let them build the products they want to build, and that's been the success of the company. And I know too many.
Brad,
go ahead.
I'm going to cut you off there, but Brad has a question. I'm not sure you can answer it. I'm not sure anybody in Elkhart can answer it. Brad says, question, how close to normal production are most of the plants?
They're pretty close. I mean, right now, what's holding people back right now would be still some shortages, and it's pretty widespread. It started early on with air conditioners, and I went into one of the Thor motor coach plants 3-4 weeks ago, and they're starting the month off with over 50 shortages. And so I think the vendors, many are going to work through some of this holiday season to catch up, and most of our plants are shut down for 2 weeks. Okay. So that period will help them catch up a little bit. And then beyond that, we feel that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Really in this first quarter of the year, we think they'll catch up. All that is with the huge asterisks of COVID, because what many are experiencing, if you have an outbreak in a plant, you'll have to shut the plant down. You'll have to sanitize the plant. If it's a large group, it could be down. We've seen some vendors go down 2 weeks. So it's with some of those, if we can, get to where things are more normal. But I can tell you, I mean, we're at very high production levels right now, even with the shortages. But if we could build in step, it's better for everybody. So we're probably holding back a little bit just because they have units in the yard that are being reworked at the end of the month. It is not optimal for us, but it's you could see in our last quarter was one of our biggest ever. So it's getting pretty close.
Yep.
So Bob, one of the people who just
that last quarter was what, $2.45 billion, and you're $8.1 billion from last year, and now you've got Tiffin to add on to that. So within a year or two, $10 billion company, right?
Hopefully.
So one of the recent joiners to the crowd here is Chris Andro, who's the RVDA president or chairman this year.
No questions from him.
Chris is here, and but his brother Jason made it way earlier than him.
Yeah.
Chris said,
"Not allowed."
Sorry, I'm late. Good to see you, Bob. Also, Bob and Johnny. Okay.
Good to see you, Chris.
So, also, there was another question here. Oh, but by the way, Jesse is having side conversations with Kevin Hiroki. So,
Kevin, you've watched the show enough, Kevin. I thought you understood the rule that we don't have side conversations. Not only that, I understand he's one of your dealers, and it's the end of the month, and this is your intro so that when you call him on December 31st, Jesse's going to feel bad tomorrow not giving you a big order, right?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Bob Martin, can you write Kevin up for insubordination, not paying attention during a time when you were speaking?
He never pays attention when I'm speaking. So only when I take him out for lunch and I buy him about 3 chili cheese dogs. That's how you get it.
Oh, okay. All right.
3 chili. Wait a minute. 3
Larry
chili cheese dogs.
Larry Watson says, how far along are we to get air conditioning? Well, Bob mentioned that the suppliers are coming on and they're coming better. Most of my dealers are reporting the deliveries almost every day now. So the supplier community, and Bob addressed that in terms of them working over the holiday and plants are shutting down. Jesse says, I have had the pleasure of meeting both of these. Bob's personality.
No. Both of these Bobs personally. And I believe that 1,000%. Somebody must have said you were nice guys.
Well, they don't say that about you. They say it about me.
See, Bob, see what I have to deal with. But you forgot.
Wait. Walter says, interested in your thoughts on pop-up campers, which seem to be disappearing from the landscape, Jayco 2019, and these are one of the most affordable young families just starting out. Well, Walter, you've been taking too much vacation time because pop-up sales are on the rise, not to where we used to have them 10 years ago. But give us your opinion of pop-ups, Bob.
Yeah, the pop-ups, it's not been something that we've really focused on too heavily. When we bought Jayco, they had some great pop-ups. It was really their decision to kind of get out of them. People that are focused on them can do a great job. It's more difficult to manufacture, but I think there are some great units out there, and I agree. It's a great way to start. I mean, it's an entry level. It's lightweight. It's easy to tow. I've towed them behind a motorhome for extra safety, and we sold them when I was a coachman. But for Thor companies, it just hasn't been something that they've had the interest in building. If one of our companies wanted to, we'd be all for it if that's what they wanted to. But it's not been their focus. So.
Yeah.
And speaking of dealers, Bob, did you see that our friend Al Robinson, the Canadian Dealer of the Year, Ontario Dealer of the Year, is with us from Great Canadian, right? Is that the name of it?
Ken West, isn't it? But he is the Canadian RV Dealer of the Year. We do know that. He
probably sells your product, right, Bob?
I believe so. So congratulations on being Dealer of the Year.
Yeah.
And Gail Hogan, who is the new Rhode Island State Director with her husband, we ordered ours in September. Date of arrival was to be in November. Now, no idea. Now, Gail, this is the CEO. This is not the production. Number one, you don't tell us what you bought, so we have no idea. But if you think Bob's got a list next to him that he can check and see, let me see if Gail Hogan's on this list, and I can tell her when her unit's going to come.
But if you give me what you ordered, we'll get an answer for it.
I'll make sure you have. I'll make sure
you have. I don't know right now, but I know who to talk to. So
you got connections, Bob Martin?
I know some guys. Yeah.
Okay. People. And for the record, Chris Andro just said that Kevin Hiroki is the best rep in the industry, period.
There you go. So he can get away with murder.
So now we've got an unindicted co-conspirator here, Chris Andro, along with Kevin, who's chatting it up with Jesse. He does what Brad does. Oh, wait a minute. Here comes some more insubordination. Hemlock Hill is a great dealer partner for Cougar and Keystone. Thanks for the compliment. I'm blessed to work for the best company in the industry under the best leadership with Bob. Wait a minute. That's not insubordination. That is brown nose.
That's what Horky's good at.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, you're good for 4 chili cheese dogs next time you go out.
Yeah, Kevin, you better stop while you're ahead. Good. Yeah.
Do you take him to Steak and Shake?
No, we go to Pat's Hot Dogs in Syracuse, Indiana. So
is it a truck or an actual building?
It's a building. Yeah, it's a journey. It's something I started going there with the Phoenix, and Kevin and I have carried on the tradition, and Matt Zimmerman and I will go down there, and it's about an hour from my office, so I have to stop at Keystone, pick up Kevin, and Kevin makes sure that everybody knows we're going to lunch.
Well, I'm disappointed for all the many times I've gone to Elcott. Nobody's taken me there for hot dogs. So
I'll pay for Kevin to take you.
okay, all right.
Walter has a Keystone that he bought specific. Walter Swenson, we told you, the guy who's the resident genius. He bought a Keystone strictly to use as a rental, and he had it.
Oh, wow.
You know what? He had it booked for the whole season. Then COVID hit in March and April. He lost all his April, May, and June business. But in July, he had to forfeit some of his own weeks to schlep that from campground to campground for renters.
Yep.
He's got a big fifth wheel, but he went into that, he put it into outdoorsy. And a lot of consumers are doing that. Do your dealers tell you the same thing, that they got people coming in to buy units specifically to put them into RVZ or RV Share or outdoorsy? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that there was a trend before, but I think it really just took off, and I think it's kind of like an Airbnb where it slowed at first, but then it's really taken off now, and people are, it's a way to adjust to the cost of the unit, but I don't know how many people are buying an extra one just for that, but I know that people are doing it, and it's an opportunity, and people are, I know campgrounds are using units as, buying units and having their rentals there as like an Airbnb, and some Airstreams are doing that, but no, I think it's a trend that it's good for all of us. It's it's like rentals. Many people try before they buy, and if they try it and they like the lifestyle and they enjoy the experience, then they come into a dealer and they get serious.
I want to switch the topic, because we only got about 7 minutes left, Bob. But and I know this is an important topic for you because I've heard some of your other discussions on it. One of the issues that we have today, and we all know it in the industry, and consumers know it, and dealers know it, is this tremendous influx of first-time buyers. Our dealers are telling us 50 to 80% of their new business is from a first-time buyer. So right out the gate, they don't know anything about RVs. Then they go to a campground. They don't know anything about campgrounds or campground etiquette. And I have to admit, I've been hard on our dealers because we stress training a lot with our dealers and, satisfying the customer. But as I was doing some more research on Thor, I found your website, which I think has been revised recently. But I have to commend you, not because you're sitting here and not just to get free hot dogs in Syracuse from Kevin, but
Syracuse, Indiana, Bob.
Yeah,
it's a long way to drive for a hot dog.
We go to the Dinosaur Barbecue in Syracuse, but I want to mention this point here. I am extremely impressed with what you have done on the consumer side of your website. You have got so many videos, presentations, talks about every different aspect. But I got to tell you, with all my dealers here, I got 35 dealers here in New England in the association. Not one of them has ever said, "Hey, Bob, you ought to really look at the Thor," because we talk education a lot. And nor has a consumer come to me and said, "Man, I went to the Thor website and you wouldn't believe what's there." Now, either it's the best kept secret in the RV industry or it's something new that maybe I haven't seen. But what a wealth of information you have there. And I'm going to put some links in after the show. But want to talk about that a little bit, because I know you're passionate about this challenge that we have.
Yeah, and for us as Thor, it's a challenge that many people don't know Thor. Honestly, as you go out, they know Airstream, they know Jayco, they know Keystone, they know our companies, and that's what we like. We're a company of brands, and so our website we've enhanced over the last few years, really trying to find some of those new first-time buyers. And the goal of our website is really just to show them the RV experience, educate them, but ultimately it's to feed them into our companies and find the right product that fits for them. And so we do have more videos. We have Instagram affiliations. We have people that we work with as influencers. We're doing more and more of that, but our companies do far more. And this is where I literally my mother-in-law has an Airstream motorhome, and it's different than my motorhome. It's got the tank dump with the macerator, and I literally didn't go there walk through, so I had to watch the video on how to dump the tanks. And so our companies are doing incredible jobs with how-to videos that I think are really important for that new buyer when they're coming in, because many times they don't know how, or they forget to walk through. I always recommend people tape their walkthrough.
Tape it.
But
videotape it.
There are more videos out there than ever, and I think all of our companies see the importance of that. And so we have some on the corporate webpage, but really the corporate webpage is high level, and it's trying to educate and feed them into our companies. And there's an RV sorter where is it motorized, is it towable, and it directs them in a certain direction. And ultimately, we want them to get all the way to our dealers. And so we're kind of casting a bigger net. We've invested more money in that marketing side of it, but it's a fine line. We want our companies to be the ones to really get the attention of the customer. Not as much Thor, but we just want to kind of bring the experience more to their light.
Well, you said many people don't know Thor. I'm going to blow this one up, but for those of you that are out there that don't know, want to talk to that, Bob, and you are in fact the largest RV manufacturer in the world. You've got the presence here in the States and Europe, but that's an impressive list of companies.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And it's, Wade and Peter did a great job in the United States before I came into my seat, and Erwin Heimer did a tremendous job in Europe. And they're very similar stories. They're companies that were acquired to be part of a group that really were allowed to maintain their identity. And I can go through open house and get excited going through all of our different companies' displays, and they all have a little bit different style. And this is where, for me, we're the biggest now, but focus on is to be, definitely the best. I know we are not there as a company, as an industry. We've got, many opportunities, a long way to go. But I think every company that we've bought, I've learned a little bit more, and it's been, interesting for me. The latest acquisition, Bob Tiffin. I mean, what an opportunity for me. But I didn't know Bob that well, and I look forward to meetings of him teaching me about how his philosophy of how he takes care of customers and what he does. And I've been able to have those conversations with Daryl Bontrager from Jayco. He doesn't like it when I tell him that he's has sage advice for some of our younger managers. But it's key. I mean, someone that grew up in a family business for over 40 years, that's a wealth of knowledge. And so for me, I enjoy watching our presidents get together and our everyone at open house. This is where we miss our dealers. We miss seeing all the partners at open house, and we look forward to next year hopefully we can get back to normal, to where it's a unique industry because it is it's partnerships across the board. We can't do it without the dealers. Dealers can't do it without us. We really all cater to the customer, trying to create products that they'll enjoy, they can use, and we want them to keep coming back to the lifestyle. And so I think it's a unique industry that it's not driven from the top down. Things are driven from the bottom up. All the decisions, the product, and that's where we are different. I mean, we're very we're not top heavy as a company. And we're proud of that. And so it's something that I can have relationships with a Chris Andro, who I will tell you, he was an early Cougar dealer when Cougars had problems, and he dropped me. He dropped Cougar, and it was a goal of mine to get them back. And we did over time, and they're one of our best dealers right now. And but it's relationships like that it takes many years to build, and it's just not duplicated in many industries. So I think we're all just very fortunate to be part of this wonderful, sometimes crazy industry.
Sometimes crazy.
Bob Zagami.
Yes.
we need to let our audience know that it would have been very easy for Bob Martin to say, you know what, guys, I'm on vacation this week. I'm in Florida. I'm with my family. I don't really have time. But you know what? He answered every one of your emails about when can we test? When can we do this? When can we do that? And Bob Martin, I thank you for being a regular guy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, your credit to the industry and what you have done and what you have built there. And what we do ask, if you have time, if you can sneak 10 minutes maybe tomorrow, if you go back through the comments, we didn't get to a lot of them. And there's other questions there that people have, and drop your note. We do that ourselves afterwards because it's just impossible to get to all the questions that they can throw up there for us.
Including a comment by Chris Andro that says, wait, you told me you make your wife dump the tanks.
Never. She stays in the motorhome.
That means there's a special relationship.
I've been RVing for over 40 years. My wife wouldn't know where the connection was to empty the holding tanks. So
she's watched. She's entertained, but she doesn't want to touch. So,
Bob, any last words for our fans before we let you go? You're kind enough to give us a whole hour, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and these, as you said, I'm winding up at the end of a crazy year, and when you had said, hey, Bob, would you come on? It's I learned from these opportunities as well, and I'll go through all the comments. My email gets blown up quite a bit throughout the year, but I'm at the time of the year. This is where I kind of catch up, on business and personal as well, and I enjoy seeing all the names pop up. And yes, you have a lot of dealers that I know, a lot of people that have some funny comments, but that's our industry. I mean, when I see Chris and Kevin Markey and Brad Moore, I mean, they're always they're good relationships, but they like to mess with me too. But that's part of the magic.
It is. And we want to thank once again Lee's Family Trailer Sales in Windham, Maine for sponsoring tonight in the next 6 months with Dan Crappy and his team, leesfamilytrailer.com. Bob, thank you very much. Enjoy the last day of the year and best wishes for 2021. And somewhere along the way, we're
coming out for that hot dog, Bob.
Yeah, we'll get it.
All right, you'll be my guest.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody. Have a happy New Year.
Thank you.